G'day and welcome to Does It Matter? There's been a lot happening lately and we're all pretty aware of that. A lot of gruesome stuff in the Ukraine, more so recently in Israel, Palestine. It's easy when stuff like this happens to get caught up in the emotion of it, in the horror of it, and to feel compelled, as we do because we are a tribal species, to pick a side, to pick a narrative and run with that. I would implore everyone to resist the very powerful anthropological urge to do so. Don't. Recognize that you're driven by your genes and by our attention whore society to heat things up. Heat things up in your own mind in outrage and understandable horror and outrage. It doesn't help. It won't help you. It won't help anyone else. Usually the first emotions you feel from something negative are the least useful. Anger, outrage, horror. These aren't going to help you. They're understandable reactions. They're human reactions. They're normal reactions. But what we need is trained thought, explicit and deliberately chosen ways of reacting to data. And we need to pass that data with a sense of detachment. I've talked about it before. Detachment. It changed my life over a decade ago, increasingly. Well, over a decade ago, increasingly. And it has helped me weather some significant storms. I'm a highly flawed individual, as anyone who knows me is aware of. And detachment lets me negotiate those flaws more effectively and lets me look past other people's flaws as well, which are often glaringly obvious, and especially in horrible situations like this, to try and see what is behind that. And it is looking past the curtain of the obvious, which social media, most news, again, most of the attention whore society we live in, attention-seeking society, is very poorly equipped to do. We just don't tend to look past the curtain. Looking past the curtain doesn't mean trying to find deeper sources of blame for your chosen bias. No. It means actually abandoning whatever you think or believe and simply looking at what the data is producing. Being open to a variety of narratives, a variety of possibilities, and then narrowing that down to what is most plausible according to the information we have, and keeping an open mind that we often don't have enough information to actually make a plausible opinion, to make a rational, reasonable, factual opinion. Right now, in the world, polarity is growing. The drums of war are becoming more and more common, and as they become more common, they become more acceptable. We have gender wars, we have ethnic strife, we have political strife, we have territorial strife, we have economic strife. The hard-won peace that we have largely enjoyed since World War II, and yes, I know the Cold War, Vietnam, Korea, they were tiny spats by comparison to what had passed before for centuries. We have had a relatively peaceful period for many, many decades. And that doesn't have to last. That doesn't have to stay. It doesn't. We could botch it up. And the way we botch it up is for people from a variety of political and sociological poles to decide that people who don't share that space with them, who don't share that belief with them, can't be friends, can't be partners, can't be family members, can't be in their society, can't be safe. That's one of the worst ones. And when someone is deemed to be dangerous, when someone is deemed to be unsafe, to be doubtful, dodgy, then all manner of things can be done. Things that you would never normally consider. It's a slippery slope. The polarity that's growing in the world today, the judgmentalness that is the lucre of social media and mass media in general. Quick judgments, snap judgments. No looking behind the curtain, no detachment, just running in and forming opinions. And then the inability to backstep on those opinions. I have lots of opinions and I regularly reverse or alter them simply because I get new data in. I remind myself on a daily basis that I'm always wrong about something, and often many things. It's something that we probably could all do with. Like, we get stuff wrong. We're imperfect beings. We're not super AIs. We're not gods. We're just people. Very clever, hairless apes. And if we can remember that and keep that in mind, we will be better for each other. We will be healthier in ourselves. And we will probably skip an awful lot of catastrophe that's waiting for us down the track. Let's not react. Let's think. Let's not just feel. Let's intuit, because there is a profound difference between just feeling and intuiting. Just as there's a profound difference between being effectively affected by something, so effectively empathizing, feeling what other people feel, and cognitively empathizing, which is an extrapolation of that requires reason and looking for the understanding the deeper reasons as to how and why someone has come to feel and act and be a certain way. And it's that cognitive empathy that we need most of all. Everyone feels to some degree, unless they're a psychopath, a certain degree of affective empathy. But we can fall into traps with that and immediately start to snap into judgment. Cognitive empathy calls us to a higher standard. It calls us to think more clearly. And as a volatile and passionate person, I find myself very easily driven by affective empathy and by the delicious ease of quick judgments, especially when it seems obvious that something's horrible or wrong. It's not always obvious. It's not always useful to look at it that way, because there's usually far more to scenarios that involve people than one would think. How much of the story are you getting is true? How much of it are you getting full stop? How much of the facts are you getting? Does anyone actually know everything that needs to be known yet? These are viable questions that we should be asking of ourselves, especially nowadays. Lives are in the stead. Things will pass in the coming weeks, months, and years that will have incredible effects down the track. Will shift culture, will alter millions, possibly billions of lives. We don't know what those will be. We don't know the ones that will be small and a ripple in a teacup, and we don't know the ones that will drive tsunamis. We have no idea. We're guessing. So we need to approach all of these things, especially the things that affect us most deeply and emotionally. We need to approach them with a sense of compassionate detachment. You don't have to be a robot. You don't have to not feel. I couldn't do that if I tried. I'm not that advanced or clinical or whatever term you would want to use. But being able to step back from the powerful emotions surging through us and ask some reasonable, rational questions is a really good start. Recognizing that we're not hearing all the truth and probably never will. That we're not getting all the data, and if we do get all the data, it will take probably many months to years, or if we ever get it. Just understand the story is a complex one. And all I can hope is that in the coming months, we can all keep our heads. We can remember that other people feel. And even if they're saying and doing horrible things, even if they're doing things we don't agree with and find hard to understand, it's that cognitive empathy, trying to understand how it came to be. It doesn't justify what people do. The people that have committed murders in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict on both sides are guilty of murder, and they have done terrible and cruel things. Cognitive empathy asks me to look at, how did this come to be? Instead of looking at the eggs smashing down around me, to quote Peter Attia's analogy, I should be looking at who's throwing the eggs from the top of the building. We need to be looking at what are the causal features of these conflicts and what is driving them, what is exacerbating them. If we only look at the end goal and become outraged, we've got no hope of solving these problems. None at all. We all need to be better. All of us, we need to be better. And we can be. Us.